Namaste and welcome to our continuing series, The Synthesis of Yoga with Ranganath. Today we will be on chapter 4, The Systems of Yoga, page number 35, The Results of Hatha Yoga.
So I read the para first, then we'll come back to it. The results of Hatha Yoga are thus striking to the eye and impose easily on the vulgar or physical mind. And yet, at the end, we may ask what we have gained at the end of all this stupendous labor. The object of physical nature, the preservation of the mere physical life, its highest perfection, even in a certain sense, the capacity of a greater enjoyment of physical living, has been carried out on an abnormal scale. But the weakness of Hatha Yoga is that its laborious and difficult processes make so great a demand on the time and energy and impose so complete a severance from the ordinary life of men that the utilization of his results for the life of the world becomes either impracticable or is extraordinarily restricted. If in return for this loss we gain another life in another world within, the mental, the dynamic, these results could have been acquired through other systems like Raj Yoga, through Tantra, by much less laborious methods and held on such less exacting terms. On the other hand, the physical results, increased vitality, prolonged youth, health, longevity, are of small avail if they must be held by us as misers of ourselves, apart from the common life, for their own sake, not utilized, not thrown into the common sum of the world's activities. Hatha Yoga attains large results, but at an exorbitant price and to very little purpose. So, obviously Sri Aurobindo does not approve very much of the Hatha Yoga. Fine, it gets good results, but from his point of view, it's of no use because you are spending too much energy for a relatively ordinary result, because you can get the result from other yogas also, and to very little purpose, because in Sri Aurobindo's view, the power of yoga must be used for the good of mankind. That's constantly he says. He follows the Gita's prescription there. The Gita's prescription all the time they speak of Loka Sangrahanartham or Loka Hite Rata. You must be engaged in the good of mankind. So that you are not doing. You are concentrating only on your own perfection of body and vital. So that's what he's saying. He doesn't say it's not valid. It is very valid, but the results are relatively narrow. Okay, so we go back to the beginning of the para. The results of Hatha Yoga are thus striking to the eye and impose easily on the vulgar or physical mind. Note the word vulgar. Normally when we use the word, we use it in a very pejorative sense. But here it's not necessarily pejorative, but just the common mind, okay, in that sense. And yet, at the end, we may ask what we have gained at the end of all this stupendous labor. You have to spend the whole day, you have to do this, you have to clean yourself by physical methods, you clean your esophagus, you clean your intestines, and you go on sitting, doing asanas all the time. Huge amount of labor, okay? So Sri Aurobindo is saying, compared to the labor that you are spending, the result that you are getting is spiritually not so big. Physically, yes, you can get fantastic. He's telling you what? Longevity, health and all that. We'll see that. The object of physical nature, the preservation of the mere physical life, its highest perfection, even in a certain sense, the capacity of a greater enjoyment of physical living, has been carried out on an abnormal scale. What do you mean by greater enjoyment of physical living? Because you are getting rid of disease and you are enjoying a good health. If you have a good health, naturally life becomes very pleasurable and also enjoyment, because there is no disease and there is no aging process also. So you feel yourself young all the time. So naturally there is enjoyment.
But then what does he mean by on an abnormal scale?
Yeah, on an abnormal scale, okay? Having carried on an abnormal scale, because they really concentrate only on the body and the vital. So, but the weakness of Hatha Yoga is that its laborious and difficult processes make so great a demand on the time and energy and impose so completely a severance from the ordinary life of men. Naturally, if you have to do pranayama and you have to do asanas, you can't do it in a crowd. You have to separate yourself and go into a private place and then do that. So you are cutting yourself off from society. That's what he's saying. Severance from the ordinary life of men, that the utilization of its results for the life of the world, there you are, become either impracticable or is extraordinarily restricted. You may help another individual, you may help other individuals, but your usefulness to the society, the good of society, is very restricted. That's what he said. Srimda is constantly harping on this. Spiritual liberation for the individual is fine, but why do you want to restrict it only to the individual and yourself? What you have gained, it must be of use to others. Because constantly Srimda is thinking of the individual as well as the collectivity. Okay? This is a feature of his always. If in return for this loss we gain another life in another world within the mental, the dynamic. The mental is here, corresponding to the mind. The dynamic is the vital. He is using a different word, but dynamic means action, energy. And action and energy belong to the vital. Okay? So yeah. Dynamic. These results could have been acquired through other systems, like Raj Yoga, through Raj Yoga and through Tantra, by much less laborious methods. In Raj Yoga and Tantra, they don't do some of these things which the Hatha Yogins do, cleaning their intestines, it's more psychological based, okay? Not so much physical. They do use asanas, but they don't use these other methods that I told you, the cleaning of the esophagus and cleaning of the, all these things they don't do. And even the nose, she was talking about the taking in water from the nose and clearing the passages. They do all
Jal
this.
Niti. Jal Niti, right?
So finally, Srimdo's saying, on the other hand, the physical results, and what are they? Very clear, he is answering. Increased vitality. The amount of energy that you get is tremendous, because pranayama will give you vitality. Purify the vital to a large extent. Prolonged youth. You don't age so easily. Health, longevity are of small avail if they must be held by us as misers of ourselves. Only I am utilizing the results that I have got. I am not being able to help others. Apart from the common life, for their own sake, not utilized, not thrown into the common sum of the world's activities. See, even those who are making inventions at the physical level, it's okay. They do it in a selfish manner, but ultimately they benefit mankind. The one who has found out the mobile, he may take out a patent and he'll get the royalty from all that, but it is helping everybody. Okay? The one who discovered how to make a motor car, how to make a train, how to make a... so you patent these things and it becomes useful for entire mankind. But Hatha Yoga's results, only for yourself. That's what he's saying. Increased vitality, prolonged youth, health, longevity are of small avail if they must be held by us as misers of ourselves, apart from the common life, for their own sake, not utilized, not thrown into the common sum of the world's activities. Okay. So, even the inventors in the physical world, when they are discovering, they are doing it for their own pleasure and all, but ultimately it helps mankind. But the Hatha Yogin, he is himself enjoying the fruits of his own labor. He may help one or two students or one or two disciples, but nothing much.
But now we see like an uprise, like in Hatha Yoga and asanas, and it's sort of integrated with the ordinary life. But he's not talking about that.
No, he's not talking about that, yeah.
Okay.
In modern life, Srimad wrote this 100 years ago.
Yes.
At that time, the tensions of modern life were not so much.
Right.
Now the tensions of modern life is too much. Okay.
And it calls for.
Yeah. If you are in the IT industry, okay, information technology industry, your boss tells you, I want this program to be done in 2 days' time. My client is insisting. So you don't go to bed, you have to work the night, you can't go home. So the tensions are too much. So those who leave and you can't bear the pressure, they often leave also. And all these things give you anxiety complexes and psychological complexes they give you.
Yeah.
Blood pressure, tension, all these things come up. So, we go to the next para, okay? So, he has discussed Hatha Yoga, he has assessed Hatha Yoga, and he has told you what he thinks of Hatha Yoga. Yes, it does give you a tremendous. You are impressed. By the way, the results of Hatha Yoga are striking to the eye because you have even the power to walk on water because there is no the gravitational pull you can conquer. It happened to Sri Aurobindo also. Don't think that levitation is something imaginary.
Right.
It happened to Sri Aurobindo in jail. Okay.
I think there is one story of Ramakrishna where he wanted to cross a river.
And that story is there. Yeah.
Yes.
That story goes like this, that Hatha Yogin, he had the power to levitate. So he walks on the river and goes to the other bank. But the others who are there, they take a boat and they pay a small sum and they cross the boat and go across. So on the other side, this Hatha Yogin is showing himself off and he is with a puffed up chest saying, I'll cross and you people use a boat and I didn't need to use a boat. So the man who had gone there, he said, just think a little, what is the value of what you have done? Okay? What you have done, I have done the same thing with only a few naya paisas.
Right.
So your power is only worth that much.
Yes.
I could have easily done that. So that's the story. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Raja Yoga, we read the next para. Raja Yoga takes a higher flight. It aims at the liberation and perfection not of the bodily but of the mental being, the control of the emotional and sensational life, the mastery of the whole apparatus of thought and consciousness. They don't concentrate so much on the body. They do use asanas, but not to that extent. It fixes its eyes on the chitta, that stuff of mental consciousness in which all these activities arise. And it seeks, even as Hatha Yoga, with its physical material, first to purify and to tranquilize. The normal state of man is a condition of trouble and disorder. The normal state of a man is a condition of trouble and disorder. A kingdom, either at war with itself or badly governed. For the Lord, the Purusha, is subjected to his ministers. The faculties subjected even to his subjects. The instruments of sensation, emotion, action, enjoyment. Swarajya, self-rule, must be substituted for this subjection. First, therefore, the powers of order must be helped to overcome the powers of disorder. The preliminary movement of Raj Yoga is a careful self-discipline by which good habits of mind are substituted for the lawless movements that indulge the lower nervous being. By the practice of truth, by renunciation of all forms of egoistic seeking, by abstention from injury to others, by purity, by constant meditation and inclination to the divine Purusha, who is the true Lord and true Lord of the mental kingdom, a pure, glad, clear state of mind and heart is established. So, he is telling you what the Rajoga process is. He tells you everything, but the normal Rajoga process is an 8 steps, major steps. First of all, there is the Yama, then there is the Niyama. Number 1, Yama. There are 5 Yamas. Self-control. Okay? Yama is to control. Yam. The word yam is to control yourself. Then Niyama. You have to do certain things. Yama, you should not do certain things. For instance, you should not tell lies. You should not steal. Okay? So all these type of, you should not be greedy. All these things are there. Maybe I have noted down, I'll read out to you what those are. Then there are 5 niyamas. You should do something. You should study the scriptures. You should concentrate. You should purify yourself. All these things are there. 5 yamas, 5 niyamas. Once that is done, moral purification, then you do what is called the asanas. You start with the body. So asanas will, as I has told you already, it helps to make the body supple, and also it teaches you to be steady and absorb forces which you would feel, normally you would feel restless. You teach the body not to be restless. Okay. It's not that easy to be restless. I've seen I was once in meditation in the playground, and there was a Japanese boy. I'll never forget that. He sat like a rock, absolutely, for half an hour meditation, not one single movement like that. You can say, how do you know? That means I was not at all. I was watching him quite a lot. So he was doing what I could not do. So he was absolute calm, quiet, no twitch even of the body. So that is very difficult to do. That's what asanas will give you. So first yamas, Rajogic method, 8 steps. Yama, niyama, asanas. Once you have got that to the body, now you migrate and come to the vital. Then you start concentrating on the vital. Okay? Then yama, niyama, asanas, then pranayama. Pranayama is breathing, and regular breathing. Our breathing is not regular at all. So you must teach yourself to, and there are many methods of breathing. Each one it's got its own capacities. There is different types of breathings. And it gives you a certain mastery over the life element. It's true that if you breathe deeply and calmly in a very rhythmic manner, it calms down the vital. Okay. So, pranayama. Then use what is called pratyahara. And that's a very interesting thing, pratyahara. Just as you feed the body, your vital also you have to feed with the sense perceptions. This is something that we don't think is... But if your senses are deprived of sensations and perceptions, there will be a lot of trouble. Recently they have made some experiments, and if you lock yourself up in a dark room without light, without sound, soundproof room, and you are alone in that room for 24 hours, it won't be a very pleasant experience. Sometimes people even flip. they can go off. So, you need sense perceptions. So, but you have to get the right. So, pratyahara is the control of these sense perceptions. You don't need to feed them, but you have to keep them at a distance. Separate yourself from the sensations. Pratyahara. Then you come to the mind. And the mind has got 3 steps. Dhyana, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Dharana, the capacity to have a steady mind. Dhyana, you think, there is movement in the thought, but it's all along only one line. Meditation, what you call meditation. And then finally, samadhi, where there is no movement of the thought at all. Total suspension of movement in the mind. So this is the Rajogic process. Okay, so Srimad is going to describe all that. But he's not giving a list of the things, but he's going to tell you. Rajoga takes a higher flight. It aims at the liberation and perfection, not of the bodily, but of the mental being. The mind, the consciousness, mind, mental Purusha comes out of the body-mind life, and it is not subject to body and vital anymore, and even mind. Okay? So, the control of the emotional and sensational life. Emotional, the higher vital. Sensational life, which is physical vital. Sensation is your nerves are going to give you sensations. If your nerves are not there, there will be no sensations. All your sensations of hot, cold, pleasant, unpleasant, everything comes because of the nerves. And the nerve is physical. Okay? So when Srimad speaks of sensational, it's a combination of your physical and vital. Okay? So sensational life, the mastery of the whole apparatus of thought. The apparatus of thought and consciousness is obviously the mind. So you have to control your mind. It fixes its eyes on the chitta. Chitta is a substance. Srimad is saying that stuff of mental consciousness in which all these activities arise. Just like the body is a substance, your vital also is a substance, but it's a subtle substance. Like water also is a substance, and there are waves in it, and there are all sorts of movements in the water. Exactly in the same way, your vital also is a substance which is moving. Your body is dense matter, but the vital matter is flexible and more mobile. Okay, it can move very easily. And your emotions also have forms and colors. Okay, so this vital substance, the chitta, he is talking of the chitta. Chitta is the mental consciousness, is saying, because it is not that clear that the vital and the mental don't merge. They merge one into the other. So chitta is the basic consciousness that you have, the stuff of consciousness. Okay, the stuff of mental consciousness in which all these activities arise. Okay, and it seeks, even as Hatha Yoga, with its physical material, first to purify and then to tranquilize. First you make it pure and then you tranquilize. No movement in the vital and no movement in the mind. Okay, so no movement in the vital is a practice of samatha. You don't, when something pleasant happens to you, you are attracted. When something unpleasant happens to you, you are disgusted, you withdraw. So either there is an attraction or a withdrawal. So this is not to be done. You have to teach yourself to be absolutely unmoved by pleasant or unpleasant. That is samatha. Then there is no movement in the vital. Okay? So he is saying to purify and then to tranquilize, make it calm and quiet. Without purification, tranquilization can't be done. Can't be done. The normal state of man is a condition of trouble and disorder, and we don't even usually realize it. We have got all sorts of small worries. What is going to happen tomorrow? I have to do this, I have to do that. I don't mind telling you, but I had a very interesting experience in the morning today itself. Okay, my phone was not working properly, and it started bothering me so much. What is the importance of that? It is so petty a thing, so trifling a matter, and yet it bothered me. So, at least I became conscious of it. But we are constantly bothered by all sorts of anxieties and troubles which we don't even consider as disturbance. Okay, it's natural, but it's a disturbance. Only when you get the peace you realize how troubled you were. Okay, so that's what he's saying, tranquilize. The normal state of man is a condition of trouble and disorder, and we don't normally even notice it. A kingdom either at war with itself or badly governed. So the kingdom consists of your mind, life and body, and they are constantly warring with each other. This also we are not aware of. Okay? When your vital says, I want one more of this rasgulla, or I want two more or three more. Okay? The body may tell you, hey, be careful, you are going to fall ill. You don't care, you do it. So there is a war between your body and your vital. Okay? Or you do the other thing. You want to win the race, so you you go beyond your vital capacity, and then there's a breakdown in health. So this sort of thing happens all the time. What about mind also? The mind says you should not do something, but the vital wants to do it anyway. So this constantly there's a war between mind, life and body. That's what Srimad is saying in a very interesting way. Kingdom either at war with itself, civil war. Okay? Usually I give the children the example of they have to do a homework. Okay? They have to submit the homework tomorrow. But they've had a very heavy day, football, they have played a heavy game, and they come home and the mind is telling you, hey, you have to do that homework. That's your duty. But the body says, no, I'm too tired. So there is a clash between the body and the mind. So constantly all the three are warring with each other. And Srimad adds afterward that the ego is there, who is even worse. He makes you do things that you don't want to do. So this whole thing he has put in one word, a kingdom of trouble and disorder. A kingdom either at war with itself. He is not using the word civil war, but it is really a civil war. A war with itself. Or badly governed. Okay? For the Lord, the Purusha, is subjected to his ministers, the faculties, subjected even to its subjects. So, who is the king? The king is a psychic being. Your consciousness. Not the conscience, okay? But the better part of you. But it is being completely, or you can say also the soul. But your body-mind life is completely dominating your soul. The soul is not even conscious. So you have to reverse the trend. That's what he's saying, okay? Yeah, your psychic being in the beginning is only a constitutional king, no power. So, only it is divine in essence, but cannot control body-mind life. When it comes out, it can control. That's why there is the word governance. It can govern the body-mind life when it comes out. But that's at a later stage. For the Lord, the Purusha, is subjected to his ministers. Who are the ministers? Your mind, your life and your body. They should be the one who you are helping you, but they are not helping you, they are dominating you. The faculties, subjected even to his subjects. Okay? Subjected even to his subjects. The instruments of sensation, emotion, action, enjoyment. These are the instruments. Sensation. Okay? Pleasant sensations, unpleasant sensations. Emotions also, same. Pleasant and unpleasant. Action, enjoyment. These are all dominating you. They are imposing their own needs on you. Swarajya, self-rule, must be substituted for this subjection. Swarajya, you are dominating yourself, you are also ruling yourself. Self-rule must be substituted for this subjection. First, therefore, the powers of order must be helped to overcome the powers of disorder. This is what he means by yama and niyama. Okay? The preliminary movement of Raj Yoga is a careful self-discipline by which the good habits of mind are substituted for the lawless movements that indulge the lower nervous being. Let me see if I have got a yeah. The lawless movement that indulge the lower being, he is referring to the yamas and the niyamas. Okay? So, there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. Now, he is telling you what they are. By the practice of truth. Satya Vachana. Yeah.
Satya ahimsa asteya aparigraha brahmacharya. Satya ahimsa asteya aparigraha brahmacharya.
Satyam, okay? Speaking the truth. Renunciation of all forms of egoistic seeking. Agrahyam. Yeah. Agrahyam, eagerly trying to possess. Agrahyam, the second one. Then, abstention from injury to others, ahimsa. Okay? Don't hurt others. These are the yamas. By practice of truth, renunciation of forms of egoistic seeking, abstinence from injury to others, by purification. Okay? You must purify yourself. Even physical bathing is part of that. By constant meditation and inclination to the divine, Purusha, Ishvara Pranidhana, that's the word they use. Ishvara Pranidhana, worship of the divine. These are things you should do. Then, who is the true Lord of the mental kingdom? A pure, glad, clear state of mind and heart is established. So, moral practice. Okay, by morality, you purify this is the first step. You have to do that. This is the first step only. Afterwards, the ordinary activities of the mind and sense must be entirely quieted in order that the soul may be free to ascend to higher states of consciousness and acquire the foundation for a perfect freedom and self-mastery. But Raj Yoga does not forget that the disabilities of the ordinary mind proceed largely from its subjection to the reactions of the nervous system and the body. Okay? It adopts, therefore, from the Hatha Yogic system its devices of asana and pranayama, but reduces their multiple and elaborate forms in each case to one simplest and most directly effective process, sufficient for its own immediate result. There are, I think, about 80 asanas, and the Hatha Yogin practices most of them. But in Raj Yoga, you take only a very few and do that. Okay? You don't go into so much detail. Asana and pranayama, but reduces their multiple and elaborate forms in each case to one simplest and most directly effective process, sufficient for its own immediate object. And what is the object? Quieten the restlessness of the body. Thus, it gets rid of the Hatha Yogic complexity and cumbrousness, huge amount of clumsy waste of time and energy, while it utilizes the swift and powerful efficacy of its methods for the control of the body and the vital functions, and for the awakening of that internal dynamism full of a latent supernormal faculty, typified in yogic terminology by the Kundalini, the coiled and sleeping serpent of energy within. Now, we'll go a little into that. Let me finish the para. Okay? This done, the system proceeds to the perfect quieting of the restless mind and its elevation to a higher plane through concentration of mental force by the successive stages which lead to the utmost inner concentration and ingathered state of the consciousness, which is called samadhi. He has not given the 3 steps, but dharana, dhyana, samadhi, he has clubbed and he is explaining that process in English. So, what he is saying is, just as there is energy in matter, but it is hidden. Now science has found out the trick of using the energy in matter. Okay? We use not all matter, but some matter. But a day will come when we will be able to use all matter energy, because the supermind is descended and is hiding in the matter. So the energy also is there, and now we know how to extract energy. There is a constant parallelism between the universe and the individual. Remember that. The individual is nothing but a condensation and a zipped form, if you want, of the universe. Whatever is there in the universe is there in the individual. Therefore, this energy must be there somewhere lying in him also. Just as matter is the last stage in the involution, similarly, your last stage is represented by the coccyx bone. They call it the Mooladhara. So the energy is all stored there, just as it is stored in matter. So by processes of concentration and asanas and pranayama, you can awake this energy. It goes up, shoots up. Normally it goes like when those who have the experience, they say it goes up like a snake. Okay, it's like a snake which rises it, and it goes up the spine and opens up all the chakras one by one. In the integral yoga, you don't do that. You concentrate. The technical details are not important. For Srindo, the methods are completely psychological. So, this is how you awaken the Kundalini. Kundalini is the pot, the vessel which holds all the energy in the coccyx bone. But it is not the physical body, but the subtle body that this energy is stored. Okay? So that's what he's saying. So, this is the first step only. Afterwards, the ordinary activities of the mind and sense must be entirely quieted in order that the soul may be free to ascend to higher states of consciousness and acquire the foundation for a perfect freedom and mastery. Why so much importance to quietness? It's very easy to understand. In troubled waters, the reflections are not clear. And you don't see the bottom also, there is no transparency also. Okay, it's very simple. Just like that. But when the water is absolutely calm and quiet and no movement, the reflections of everything is perfect there. So, your sight and your understanding also will be disturbed if you are in a state of unquietness. So that's why you have to make this absolutely calm and quiet. Then the reflection of the truth comes into it. Otherwise, if you are disturbed, everybody knows that when you are disturbed, you can't work effectively. So that's the first. You have to quieten everything. So, but how to quieten? So they are saying, Rajoga does not forget that the disabilities of the ordinary mind proceed largely from the subjection to the reaction of the nervous system and the body. The body's illness will affect your mind. The body's needs will affect your mind. Body is tired, it will affect your mind. You are hungry, it will affect your mind. Everything will affect the body and the vital. Okay? So that you have to quieten down first. So it uses the Hatha Yogic system of asanas and pranayama, but reduces their multiple and elaborate forms in each case to one simplest and most directly effective process, sufficient for its own immediate purpose. Immediate purpose is, my main point is mind and not the body, but I will use this for a certain calming down of the body and the vital. So you just use a few asanas, not all the 80 asanas. And pranayama also, I think there are any number. There's even names are there for these asanas. Bhastrika, okay? Like, so there are so many different types. But the Rajoga uses only some. Okay? So then he's saying, thus it gets rid of the Hatha Yogic complexity and compressedness, while it utilizes the swift and powerful efficacy of its methods for the control of the body and the vital functions, and for the awakening of that internal dynamism full of the latent supernormal faculty typified in yogic terminology by the Kundalini, the energy that is there stored in the Mooladhara, the coiled and sleeping serpent of energy within. This done, the system proceeds to the perfect quieting of the restless mind and its elevation to a higher plane than through concentration of mental force by the successive stages which lead to the utmost inner concentration and ingathered state of consciousness, which is called samadhi. Dhi is the mind, okay, and sama. So you make your mind absolutely calm and quiet, sama. No movement at all. So that completes what we have to do today. So we stop here today.